Should never put off going to the dentist. Patrick Lawler tried everything to get rid of his toothache. He tried painkillers, ice cream, but nothing seemed to help. The pain became excruciating, so he finally visited the dentist. The x-ray would reveal the source of the pain, but also cause him to break down in tears. Because unknown to Patrick, he had a 4-inch nail embedded in his skull. The 23-year-old construction worker, whilst using a nail gun, had accidentally fired the nail into his mouth.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. I just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man. Commenting down below, and most importantly, hitting that thumbs up button on each and every single video I drop. Found this video for you guys today, Seekers. Let's do what we do best, man. Say it with me, y'all. Seek the truth.
Normal looking photos with incredible backstories. Lena Medina gave birth at 5 years old, making her the youngest mother in recorded history. Her parents took her to the hospital when they saw an increasing abdominal size that they were worried was a tumor. The doctor quickly found that she was in her 7th month of pregnancy. 6 weeks later, Lena gave birth by C-section to a 6-pound baby boy named Gerardo, which was also the name of the doctor who helped her. The doctors found that her body had fully matured through a rare condition called precocious puberty. One doctor in a detailed report on her case said that she had her first menstrual cycle at 8 months old. Lena's father was arrested on suspicion of child abuse but was later let go due to lack of evidence, and the father was never identified. Gerardo was raised believing that Lena was his sister until at 10 years old he found out that she was his mother. Gerardo passed away at the age of 40 due to bone marrow disease, but Lena is still alive at 88 years old. Follow for more.
Whoa. That was eerie, man.
Let's see if you have a videophobia. I'm going to show you 5 photos. If you feel too uncomfortable to make it to the 5th photo, then you could have a videophobia. So let's go. Number 1.
I'm cool.
Feeling uncomfortable yet? And how about this?
I'm good.
Nearly there.
In a crapper, bro.
Last one. If those photos made you feel uncomfortable, then you could have a videophobia, which is the fear of snakes. Follow now to see if you can make it through the next phobia test.
I made it through that. Easy.
This is why you should never put off going to the dentist. Patrick Lawler tried everything to get rid of his toothache. He tried painkillers, ice cream, but nothing seemed to help. The pain became excruciating, so he finally visited the dentist. The x-ray would reveal the source of the pain, but also cause him to break down in tears. Because unknown to Patrick, he had a 4-inch nail embedded in his skull. The 23-year-old construction worker, whilst using a nail gun, had accidentally fired the nail into his mouth. After a successful 4-hour operation, the surgeons found that the nail had plunged 1.5 inches directly into his brain. Even his doctors said, if you're going to have a nail on the brain, then that's where you want it to be. He's the luckiest guy ever.
A nail in the brain, bro? How do, watching these kids together with you guys, man, watching these people get these injuries and they be surviving, I'm like, it's like unexplainable, man. A nail in the brain? And he was feeling a toothache. That's mind blowing.
Here are more dogs that'll send you the dog backwards. I don't care how confident you are. Once upon a time, a zoo in China tried to pass off a dog as an African lion. It didn't last long and they were surely wrong, but squint at a Tibetan Mastiff and you can see where they were coming from. They both have the personality of a plush toy and the mentality to G-check a fully grown wolf that gets out of line. Although these ones are kind of small, they just might be coyotes. But if you're not ready to handle a wolf like this, you ain't ready to match up with a Mastiff. It's a furry weapon of mass destruction with roots in the Himalayas, and they're one of the oldest breeds of dogs. At 140 pounds of fluffy fur coat, the Wolfie Mammoth will will ruin you physically and financially. It's a Mastiff that'll have you mad stiff. Rigor mortis. You are not beating a Dogo Argentina. Great dog to have, highly intelligent, very loyal, a real dog's dog. Horrible dog to have beef with. The Flex of Argentina was bred to hunt wild boars and peccaries, and a butt-naked pale ape would be nothing. One Dogo murked a mountain lion that was threatening his 2 human girls. Same dog that'll read your kids a bedtime story. I honestly think the average man would get his cookies taken by a Rhodesian Ridgeback. Again, intelligent, independent, and loyal. They'll fully love you to death. The thing is, someone would have to die. The South African Ace was bred to clear farmlands of boars and baboons. But the biggest flex is having lion hunting on their resume. Anyone who's owned one will swear by how sweet they are. But diabetes proves that sweets aren't for everyone. The wrong person will lose a foot. And really, what are we talking about? Y'all would get folded by this dog.
$100 versus 1 human.
The UK government has just announced that they will be approving a multi-million-pound geoengineering experiment to dim the sun. Is it not dim enough already? So the British government's Advanced Research and Invention Agency, ARIA, is about to drop £50 million into experiments that aim to reflect more sunshine back into space in order to slow the effects of global warming. Now, to do this, one idea is to inject aerosols like sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere so that the tiny particles reflect the sunlight. Another idea is to brighten clouds over the ocean by using ships to spray sea salt into the air to enlarge them. And a third idea is to seed certain types of clouds to allow more of Earth's heat to escape into space. Now, I don't need to tell you guys that trying to artificially alter the climate is highly controversial. However, the lead scientist said that these experiments are on a very small scale, no toxic substances will be released, and that they have strong requirements about the reversibility of effects, if any. They're likening it to when a big volcano erupts. They often blast tiny particles into the stratosphere that blocks some sunlight, and in some cases it actually cools the planet slightly for a year or two. What they're trying to do is somewhat imitate this, but in a controlled way. However, no matter how careful they are, it is not without risks or uncertainties. In fact, in January 2022, over 60 academics published an open letter calling for a ban on developing or deploying solar geoengineering. So the question is, are we at a point with climate change where drastic measures like this need to be taken, or should this be stopped immediately?
I'm on 2 hands, man. Of course you want to, protect the earth any way you can, but messing with the sun, trying to reflect the sunlight back, that's going down like a sleep stoop that can have some unforeseen consequences, man. It start out with good intentions, but you know how people get, man. They just can't leave it at that. They always gotta advance and push it. So I don't know about that one. That's if
I'm finna give you 8 facts about the T-Rex that proved he had to go. He was like King Von and nature had to get him up out of here. It had padded feet, so it did not matter how big it was. If it was hunting you, it was silent. They had better eyesight than eagles, and y'all know eagles can see for miles. It was the largest land carnivore ever. That means it was eating meat, bro, Paul. Had an extremely high IQ. I heard some people say it was like as smart as a bamboo, and I heard someone say he has an IQ of 140. That's more than me. There's a high chance they hunted in groups, so just imagine like 10 of these just trying to hunt you down, bro. They had such a good scent. It was like 100 bloodhounds, so you was not escaping him. He could smell you for miles. They had the strongest bite force of any animal alive, bro. That is crazy. They could run up to 37 miles per hour, and that does not seem that fast, but all that means is it's going to catch you every time. And I'm going to give you an extra 2 more. 1, they were most likely cannibals and were eating each other. And 2, a new study showed that T-Rexes are probably 70% bigger than we thought.
They had to get the T-Rexes up out of there, man. Imagine, could any of the seekers imagine, man? T-Rexes walking.
Let's see if you have aphidiophobia. I'm going to show you 5 photos. If you feel too uncomfortable to make it to the 5th photo, then you could have aphidiophobia. So let's go. Number 1.
Part 2?
Feeling uncomfortable yet?
That's a weird.
And how about this? Nearly there. Last one.
Anaconda, bro.
If those photos made you feel uncomfortable, then you could have aphidiophobia, which is the fear of snakes. Follow now to see if you can make it through the next phobia test.
Once again, passed it. Flying colors.
One of Jeffrey Epstein's victims was just found dead, and she allegedly took her own life. This was Virginia Giuffre, and she played an instrumental part in helping bring Epstein's crimes to light. And just today she was found dead only weeks after being hit by a vehicle and claiming she had only a few days left to live. This was the photo that she shared on her social media after her accident, and her cryptic post alarmed people. So Virginia is deeply tied into the entire Epstein story. She was a victim of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's early on, and she was actually recruited into their sex trafficking ring at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. She was approached while she was working there by Ghislaine Maxwell, and eventually found herself being trafficked by her and Epstein. Now, Virginia's most infamous accusations were leveled against Prince Andrew from England, and she claimed that she was forced to do things with him when she was just 17. She also made a lot of different allegations about a lot of different powerful men, but we'll save those for another time. Virginia dedicated her life after coming out with all of this information to fighting and advocating for victims of child sexual abuse and sex trafficking. And back in 2019, just one day after court documents were unsealed involving Ghislaine Maxwell and Virginia Giuffre, that was the day when Epstein was found dead in his prison cell. Let me know your thoughts on all of this. Obviously, my thoughts and prayers are with Virginia's family, but this is just absolutely horrific and shocking news.
What do you guys think, Seekers? Any theories?
This Bigfoot story just might make you believe part 2. So our boy Mike was really scared. He was pretty confident that whatever was looking at him from the woods wasn't any type of creature he'd ever seen before. And that's when the animal let out a roar. Mike said it sounded like a lion. And almost immediately after the roar, he heard a loud whistle noise from about 100 feet to his right. The creature in front of him stared off in that direction. And then it too made the same exact whistling sound. And then the animal stared right back at Mike. It was as if the two animals were communicating with each other. And then suddenly, another creature that looked just like the one staring at Mike stepped out of the woods. So there were two huge ape-like creatures standing like humans staring at Mike. And that's when he took off to his car. As he was running, he looked over his shoulder and saw that one of the animals was chasing him. It was easily just as fast as Mike, but it didn't attack him, it just kept running after him. Mike made it to his car, got inside, and looked out the window. Both of the animals had followed him and were staring at him. He drove off and made it home safely.
So a question I get asked a lot is, how do slugs make love? And the real question is, how don't they? And the answer is normally. So as you know, sea slugs are like boneless snails. They're nudibranchs, they're gastropod mollusks, or as you know, sea slugs. This one's a Spanish dancer, it was in Finding Nemo. They come in many colors. And they also come in many colors, and in a second I will explain. Sea slugs carry both teams' equipment, they pitch and catch, but of course, they can't just do it to themselves. Sometimes two slugs will exchange the nectar of nativity to each other and head on their way. Some, like the leopard slug, will suspend themselves in midair off a string of slime and intertwine themselves while exchanging baby batter. The reason they're upside down is the leopard slug's little slugger is so big and girthy, they literally need gravity to help the slug's baby arm fall out of its head. I am the first member of my bloodline to say that. Oh, and that blue stuff's exactly what you think. Some slugs have two Johnsons, one for what you'd expect and the other to stab their partner right between the eyes to inject a substance believed to brainwash the slug into accepting its love juice in particular and not someone else's. Traumatic insemination is the name, and that's not the worst thing that can happen. Sometimes two slugs get their Twizzlers stuck together and the only way out is for one to chew the member off the other. It happens so often there's a term for it, and pray your night never has to end on some apophilation. Or you know, and no one asked me to do this.
Yeah, you ruined my day about that. I
Doubt a lot of people do, but does anybody recognize these names? Michelle Gusset, Lori Farmer, and Denise Milner. These were the Girl Scouts who were attending Camp Scott in Mays County, Oklahoma when something went very wrong. One of the counselors reported hearing this strange and kind of low guttural noise in the woods during that night. And by the morning of June 13th, 1977, all three of these girls were found missing from their tent. The three of them were later found bludgeoned under a tree. You really have to understand, the county had never seen something like this. Ever. Something so gruesome, and all three of these girls being assaulted. But then police found something strange. In a cave outside of the camp, there were key pieces of evidence as well as two pictures. Pictures that were traced back to their development and led to only one man, Gene Leroy Hart. He was a horribly violent man with a dark history of assault. Police closed in on him, and although there's evidence he was involved, he is eventually acquitted of the charges.
How? All the evidence was pointing towards him. I told you, the justice system, man. Ongoing battle.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. When Apollo 11 landed, it only had 20 seconds of remaining fuel. 4 months ago, a deceased rapper by the name Gunyu had his corpse on stage while fans were partying around his body. The average person wastes 5 months of their lives waiting for red lights to turn green. Cruise ships have morgues, just in case someone, during the trip. If you have red eyes after swimming, it's not from chlorine. It's from the chlorine mixing with other people's urine. The furthest part of the ocean from land is Point Nemo. If you get stuck there, you're not coming back. Sunburn are your cells dying to avoid being cancerous. Most laugh tracks and shows are people from the 50s, which means you're hearing the laughter of dead people. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 14.
Any seekers knew about any of those facts?
Her parents took her life after she refused to marry her cousin. 18-year-old Saman Abbas lived with her parents in northern Italy but were originally from Pakistan. She chose not to wear a head covering in public and would also post photos of her kissing her boyfriend in public, and this would make her parents very upset. In 2020, Saman's parents wanted her to travel to Pakistan for an arranged marriage with her cousin, but she refused. To get away from her parents, she lived for several months under the protection of social services but was tricked into going back after she received messages from them. Once Saman returned home, she mysteriously disappeared. On April 29th of 2021, CCTV footage captures 3 members of the family walking with spades, a crowbar, and a blue bag. The following day, separate footage shows Saman leaving the house with her parents, and she was never seen again. Her body was eventually recovered near a farmhouse that wasn't too far away from her parents' home. An autopsy revealed she had suffered a broken neck bone from being strangled. Once Saman's family had unalived her, they immediately left Italy and went to Pakistan so they wouldn't be caught. Her uncle, who was also involved, was detained in Paris in 2021. Father was arrested in 2022, and at the time her mother was on the run. In court, Saman's father claimed that he was innocent and that him and his wife only followed her that night because it was late and they were unhappy and they just wanted to see where she was going. The court convicted both parents and they were sentenced to life in prison.
Daughter, man. Sick world.
These facial reconstructions helped identify victims, and they're downright creepy. In 2015, a body was discovered along the I-40 highway near Hinton, Oklahoma. The body was so badly decomposed that a forensic artist created this reconstruction hoping somebody would recognize her. She was identified over a year later, and her killer pleaded guilty in 2017 and was sentenced to 12 years in prison. In 1994, a hiker stumbled across a skull near Windy Point, Colorado. These reconstructions were made, but the case remained cold for nearly 30 years. She became known as Windy Point Jane Doe. It wasn't until March of this year that she was identified as Susan Hobbs of Washington State. This reconstruction was done on a body that was found in Salem, New Hampshire in August of 1968. The unidentified body had 4 gunshot wounds. It wasn't until 2019 when John Doe was identified as Vermont resident Winston Morris.
Hey man, they look like some dolls when they do the reconstructions, bro. I can't stare at them too long, man. Heebie-jeebies, bro.
A 23-year-old Florida woman was posing as a 14-year-old girl to meet up with little boys. This is 23-year-old Alyssa Ann Zinger. She was first arrested in November for at least 30 acts with a middle school boy, and then sending explicit Snapchats to many more middle schoolers. Her persona was a 14-year-old homeschooled girl. She communicated with all of her victims through Snapchat. She got hit with a ton of charges, mainly CP charges, and that's on top of assault charges. Interestingly enough, her and the victim that she was with got caught shoplifting at Nordstrom in July. She lied to the police about her identity. She was born in 2001. She said she was born in 2009 to them, but they had been investigating her for over a year now. They found out she had been lying after reviewing her school and employment records and contacted her employer at Publix in Tampa. Then, 3 months later after that, a victim came forward about Alyssa Zinger's crimes. If convicted, she faces 146 years, so basically life in prison. And I believe she has 7 different charges against her with 12 counts. If you're from Tampa, let me know if you heard about this. I'm from Tampa, I'm just hearing about this. I believe she was arrested last week, so makes sense. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
Pretending to be 14? People do not use their damn brains. At all.
This one piece of evidence has changed everything for the Fox Hollow Farm case. Herb Baumeister was said to be the man behind taking the lives of multiple men and scattering their remains across his farm. Thousands of bone fragments were found throughout his farm and property. This is Mark Goodyear, and everyone thinks that he had a role in it and then blamed it on Herb. Here's why.
This is one of the riddles that Mark has sent me. I am not a victim. I was never attacked. I am not a murderer. Exactly what am I? Tell me what I am.
What in the riddle?
Not an accomplice, not a victim, never attacked. What am I?
But look at these creepy messages that he was sending investigators, almost teasing that he had something to do with it. At first, he lied and he said that he was a victim and he was the only one that survived this serial killer. And people were like, that's weird, how come you're the only one that survived? Then he actually admitted that he was seeing Mark for 2 years and that he faked being a victim in order for them to get a search warrant to investigate his house. Something's not right, folks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm gonna have a part 5, 6, 7 because there's so much about this case, so follow and stay tuned.
He was giving out riddlers like he was the Riddler, bro.
Top 5 scariest videos caught on camera inside of a morgue. A morgue is a place where bodies are stored before they are buried or cremated. Doing all of this in one part, so make sure to like and follow so you don't miss an upload. Number 5, the end of the hall. In this video, a couple people are sleeping on the floor inside of a hospital. At around 2:17 a.m., you spot a figure at the end of the hallway that may not seem human. Take a look.
Check it out. They're not. They didn't even.
Number 4, The Awaken. In this video, a police officer gets a call from an employee saying some lights are flickering inside of the building. The officer responds and says he'll go check it out. He walks down the hallway and this is what he captured.
Brave, I would have been out. Lights flickering.
Number 3, the gurney. In this video, you will see a bunch of medical equipment. You then will see a couple of gurneys move on their own.
That one could be cap. Can't somebody just edit that? Falling gurneys.
Number 2, the spirit. In this video, a woman is laying on a stretcher and you can see on camera what appears to be her soul lifting out of her body. Before we get to number 1, make sure to follow my Instagram. I'm going to be posting some unreleased videos of the haunted hotel I just stayed in. The Instagram is AustinVro. I will see you guys there. Number 1, the doctor. A doctor recently took his own life inside of this hospital. This video is from a visitor inside of the hospital who was just roaming around the hallway trying to kill some time. That is until he realizes what he just captured on camera. The crazy thing about this video is once he showed the video to some of the staff, they informed him that that is the same room where the doctor took his life.
Caught his spirit on camera.
If you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to like and follow, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.
Another cold case has been solved after 42 years thanks to advanced DNA technology and a best friend that never gave up fighting for justice. 14-year-old Deanna Lynn Johnson went to a party in her own neighborhood in November 1982, and she never returned home. This was not like her at all, so her mother reported her missing, but unfortunately the next day her body was found just across the street on a set of railroad tracks. She had been strangled and beaten to death. DNA was found under her fingernails, but at the time it could not be used to find her killer. In the initial investigation, 17-year-old Marvin Ray Markle was identified as a suspect. He was a peer of Deanna's and he was at the same party that night. But despite investigators' best efforts to prove he committed the murder, they could not, and Deanna's case went cold. Marvin Markle popped back up on investigators' radar in 2004 when they discovered he was a suspect in another homicide, the 2001 murder of 41-year-old Shirley Ann Pratt. But it would take another 9 years for an arrest to be made in Shirley's case. In 2013, Markle was arrested though, and he was charged with the murder of Shirley Pratt. That case went to trial in 2014, and he was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 80 years in prison for Shirley's death. And during all of this, investigators were still looking at Markle for Deanna's murder. They went to the trial for Shirley's murder and tried to collect any evidence they could against Markle. And finally, in 2017, they had enough. On January 24th, 2017, police charged Marvin Markle, who was already incarcerated at Kern Valley State Prison for Shirley's murder, with the murder of Deanna Johnson. He pleaded not guilty, but everybody was sure that he was the one who killed Deanna. Her childhood best friend, Mary Borchers, said it was widely known among her peers that Markle, who was known as Ziggy, had been responsible for Deanna's murder. Mary said, quote, "Everybody knew in our minds it's always been Ziggy, 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 but no one ever came straight out and made it factual." Mary Borchers has spearheaded the pursuit of justice for many years, playing a pivotal role in gathering evidence against Markle. The retired detective who worked on the initial investigation said about Mary, quote, "I give Mary a lot of credit. I'm retired and there's nothing I can do about it. She went to court every day. She was trying to help the parents and make sure Markle got what's coming to him." Since Markle pleaded not guilty, he went to a jury trial, which lasted 3 weeks. But this week, 59-year-old Markle has been convicted of Deanna's murder. Finally, after 42 years, Deanna Johnson has justice. Deanna was a bubbly, giggly young woman who put others before herself. Those who loved her are feeling relief that her killer has finally been caught. Rest in peace, Deanna.
We all need a friend like her, man. For years she was gone until she got
Her headless body was found in a river. 39 years later, she would finally be identified. Hello, true crimerers. This is the case of the Jane Doe named Millie. Viewer discretion is advised. It was June 20th, 1984, in the Spokane River, which was near the Spokane Falls Community College. The body of a woman was found floating in the river. The young woman was missing her hands, her feet, and her head. The coroner determined that this body had been dismembered pretty crudely, like possibly with an axe or sawed apart. It wasn't really professionally done. Like the person didn't really know what they were doing. They believed the woman had been dead for sometime around 48 to 72 hours, but there was no identification. And once they put the information out to the public, nobody came forward to state that, their loved one was missing. They took DNA, but back in 1984, DNA technology wasn't really a big thing yet. On April 19th, 1998, a human skull was found. It was found, near the corner of Sherman and 7th Street in a vacant lot, also in Spokane, Washington. They would do this recreation of the person's skull, because immediately they weren't sure if it was a man or a woman, but eventually through further examination, they determined that this was a woman's skull. They came up with another composite drawing of what this woman may have looked like, and eventually they would piece together that this skull belonged to the body that was found in 1984. They were able to determine that through DNA and the angle of the saw marks done to dismember her body. However, it still did not help them identify her. Nobody came forward to state that, yeah, that's my loved one. By 2020, 2021 or so, they came up with this computerized rendering of the woman, and still it yielded nothing. And finally, that's when Othram Labs got involved, and that's when they did the DNA sequencing, building a DNA profile, which then they could use through familial DNA, and eventually they tracked her DNA to a family and finally found out who she was. It was a 24-year-old woman named Ruth Waymeyer. This is a photo from her during high school. It's pretty much the only photo that's ever been released. She had been married twice. She did live in Spokane, Washington at the time of her disappearance. It was reported that her and her husband were living a vagrant lifestyle, and she had been estranged from any of her remaining family members for quite some time. Her second husband, who she was still married to when she vanished, never reported her missing. And so that obviously became a giant red flag to police. Her husband's name was Trampus Vaughn, but he died in 2017 before they identified who she was. He is considered a prime suspect in this, mainly because he never reported her missing, and he just continued on with his life. Ruth's first husband has been very cooperative with police, and while he hasn't officially been ruled out as a suspect, they don't believe he had anything to do with this. If you have information about her murder, please call 509-456-2233.
Facts that you wish you never knew.
Okay.
Part 21. This photo shows an 8-month-old Xiao Bao who is lucky to be alive because his mother stabbed him 90 times after he bit her while she was breastfeeding him. The world's scariest haunted house, McCamey Manor, requires you to sign a 40-page waiver and undergo a physical and mental evaluation. Ooh. If you managed to make it through the house, you could win $20,000.
Free money?
But to this day, no one has ever made it through. The little girl who voiced Ducky in The Land Before Time was shot to death by her father, who then committed suicide. Roman Emperor Nero had a boy castrated, dressed him up as a bride, and married him, all because the boy looked similar to his previous dead wife. A 46-year-old man found and attacked a 13-year-old boy because the kid was killing him too many times in a game of Call of Duty.
What the hell in COD?
This is
Come
what
on, be
your
better.
poems actually mean. Put your hands together and analyze which line pattern you have. Number
Okay.
1, if your left-hand line is lower, this means you're independent and don't care what other people think of you. You keep your opinion to yourself, which is why you'll become wise one day. Number 2, if your left-hand line is higher, it means you're a super adventurous person. You're extremely confident and don't need to rush into relationships. And you can become anything because you're super independent.
Really?
Number 3, if your lines are the same, this means you're strong-minded and charming. You're gentle, sensitive, and care what other people think.
Okay, Seekers, what line do you have? I'm number 3. Mine's matched, so I think I have some of those qualities she has. But tell me down below, man. You guys 1, 2, or 3 when it comes to the palm lines, bro. I'm definitely in the middle. So interesting facts we learned today. Tap in with us. What? An oil? People have to be better, man. Plain and simple.
3 facts that could save your life, part 4. If you ever disturb a wasp's nest, don't run for the water. The wasps are so smart they'll wait for you to resurface and then continue to sting you. If you're ever buried in an avalanche, you must spit. Your saliva will follow the gravity and you can dig the opposite way, making it easier to get out. Do you ever struggle in school, especially in math? All you have to do is take a picture of your math problem, and GothMath shows you exactly step by step on how it got the answer and the answer itself. Just in case your teacher is extremely annoying with asking you to show your work. The link is in my bio and it's completely free.
Y'all need to hit that up, man, if I ever have some problems with math. That got me through a couple of rough times and some rough spots in math. I highly recommend it, man. See my husband on one or more occasion, bro, especially when it came to math. You all been there. Edit. We've been doing this for a minute, so we can definitely just call them out now when we see it.
How rare is your body? Only 5% of people have blonde hair, and the most common hair in the world is black. And only 7% of the world is capable of tickling themselves. And 25% of people automatically sneeze when they look up at the sun. And only 1% of people have vitiligo. This is a skin condition which allows areas to lose pigment, which causes them to become different colors. And 20% of people have one pupil bigger than the other. And 91.6% of people have a clockwise hair whorl.
This boy claimed he remembered his past life until his parents discovered he wasn't lying. A Syrian boy named Arius was born with a particular red birthmark on his face. As soon as he could speak, he explained to his parents that he had already lived another life as a different man, claiming he was actually murdered with an axe by his own neighbor. Turns out, a man had actually gone missing in their village years earlier, and the neighbor was the prime suspect. So Arius and his parents went to the neighbor's house to find out the truth. When the neighbor opened the door, he turned white as a ghost, claiming he was innocent. But Arius demanded the neighbor come with him, because he knew where his body was actually buried. Arius led them miles from the village to a specific spot under a tree, and they began digging. They found a skull that was cracked exactly where Arius' birthmark was. Everyone was shocked, and the neighbor was later arrested.
That's a plain case of reincarnation. That's what it sounds like to me, man. That's my first time, I guess, seeing like full hardcore evidence of it. He knew exactly where it was at. He remembered. That's like all the freaking yeah. Sounds like reincarnation. What comes around, it's gonna come back to you, man. You think you get away with something? The energy's gonna come back and get you. You learning today, Seekers.
The rarest human mutations that actually exist. About 25% of people have photic sneeze reflex, which means they can sneeze just by looking up at the sun. And about 3% of the population have no odor at all. Now, 80% of people have lines that form an M on their palm, and many people believe this is a sign of good fortune. However, 4% of people have an X on their palm, which means they'll become greatly
Most unusual places in the world. Located in Quebec, Canada, this forest has a pretty creepy atmosphere. It might be because the ground looks like it's moving, making it seem like Mother Earth is taking a deep breath.
Whoa.
This next one is actually terrifying. Located in Penang, Malaysia, this huge water tornado was getting extremely close to this apartment building. Fortunately, it stopped right in front of the building because it ran out of water. And how about this one? It used to be a hiking area before it got flooded, so everything you see here used to be above water. Imagine being a fish and seeing this appear out of nowhere.
That's like my first time seeing a water tornado. It was like that close to the building. That's actually scary. And it stopped because there was no more water, so it can form. People have to be careful, man, these areas we're living in. Where's the sky? We know that's an edit. If y'all see some edits, man, call them out down below.
That almost no human can do. Number 1, this requires very flexible fingers, and only 3% of people can do it.
I can do it.
This is known as the paralyzed finger trick, and only 1% of people can do it. First, place your hand on the table and then bend your middle finger like that. Now try lifting your ring finger off the table. Number 3, this is where you raise one eyebrow like this guy, and only 5% of people can do it. Number 4, this is where you make a V shape with your hand like this, and only 3% of people can do it. Now comment which one you can do.
1 and 3. I can't do the eyebrow like The Rock. That's his signature,
Creepy
right?
fact you didn't know about. This sound is just a cat meowing. Sadly, the cat died after the video of it meowing was recorded.
Ooh.
The owner slowed it down and made this an audio. If you don't believe me, speed it up.
We've heard that audio a couple of times. Now we know that's a cat meowing. It's
Be
creepy.
careful what you put in your body. In 2014, a couple returned to their home to find it trashed in baffling ways. There was lotion all over the door handles, all of their shoes had had their soles ripped off of them, and someone had dumped an entire can of paint all over the toilet.
Really?
Despite the obvious break-in, the police come and can't find any evidence of theft, so they leave thinking the couple's not in danger anymore. That night, the couple hears scratching underneath their bed and what sounds like a crying animal. Not wanting to find out what it was, they leave and call the cops, who come right back and start investigating the house.
Smart.
And they make a startling discovery in their bedroom. Wedged underneath the couple's bed was this 90-pound tiny little woman carrying a huge butcher's knife and a hypodermic needle. As they're taking this crazy lady away in handcuffs, one of the officers comes over to the couple and is like, so she was high on meth, and for at least 2 hours, she had been burrowing a hole in the underside of your mattress with that knife to get to you.
Disturbing body facts that will ruin your day. When you get a kidney transplant, they actually leave your original kidney in your body, and they place your third kidney in your pelvis.
Whoa.
And if you wake up because of a loud bang sound, you might actually have exploding head syndrome. It's not painful, but the sensation can be super terrifying. And according to brain surgeons, the brain is not solid at all. It's usually compared to the texture of melted butter. And during your lifetime, you will produce enough saliva to fill up 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
Damn,
Things almost no humans can do, apart from not short. If you can, then you're bloody weird. This is where you raise one eyebrow like The Rock. Only 5% of humans can actually do this.
Can't, not
Run
me.
this video if you can do it.
I can't.
This might be the most brutal way somebody has ever died, and whatever you do, don't look up the picture.
I won't.
Octavio de Silva was a 20-year-old soccer referee in Brazil, and on June 30th, 2013, he was refereeing a soccer game when he sent off a player named Josmir Santos Abreu, who was 31 years old. He refused to leave the field and began a fight with the referee. Abreu threw a punch which made Octavio draw a knife from his pocket and repeatedly stab Abreu. Abreu died on the way to the hospital, and when fans watching the game, including Abreu's family and friends, found out about his death, they invaded the field and stoned Octavio before decapitating him, and then ripping his limbs from his body with just their strength and no weapons, and then put his head on a stick in the middle of the field. And what makes this worse is that a graphic video surfaced online shortly after the incident, showing medical personnel reassembling Octavio's body. The video and pictures are extremely disturbing, and I don't recommend looking them up. The way his limbs looked after being ripped off is extremely unsettling to look at, because you see strings of flesh, tissue, and bone because it wasn't cut off properly and it was just ripped off. This case is absolutely awful, but why did Octavio pull out a knife when somebody just punched him? If he didn't stab Josmir Abreu to death, he would still be alive today. But just imagine being literally ripped limb from limb by an angry group of soccer fans, and there's nothing you can do as they pull your body apart.
One of you is going to end
It's
up
a
dead.
crazy
This
case.
is the chilling statement that friends of this couple made prior to a horrifying turn of events. On the 25th of March 2022, 24-year-old OnlyFans model Abigail White killed her boyfriend. She stabbed Bradley Lewis through the heart with a kitchen knife when he told her he wanted to finish the relationship. When police arrived at the scene, she actually tried to tell them that he'd done this to himself, but she quickly confessed. She said that she'd never meant to hurt him. Abigail was found guilty of murder and sentenced to 18 years in prison. Shockingly, despite being in prison, she has been able to find a new boyfriend on the outside.
And people on the outside in, man, they called it. They said that relationship was going to end bad. Like, sometimes, man, we got to heed people's advice because they can see things that we just can't see. We think they're overreacting, but she hit the nail on the head. And look what happened. Another crazy case.
I thought that I had seen everything when it came to cults, but you are not prepared for what this cult believes. So HBO just released this documentary about the Love Is One cult, which was run by this woman, Amy Carlson, who calls herself Mother God. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but she believed she was controlled by the spirit of Robin Williams, and this, like, yassified version of Saint Germain. Also, I cover a lot of dark stuff on this page, so you should follow along. She also said she could channel and get advice from this, like, galactic federation of dead celebrities. There's, like, Mr. Rogers, Carrie Fisher, Steve Irwin, and randomly Donald Trump, who is not dead. But Robin Williams is at the top, and so the cult believes they're getting a lot of advice through Robin Williams, so they'll say things like, so one of the beliefs that this cult has is that one day Robin Williams is going to arrive in a spaceship to take Mother God away so that she can spiritually ascend. He also told her that she can only be 103 pounds to get on the spaceship, which is why she's trying to lose a lot of weight. Eventually, Mother God starts getting sicker and sicker, and also bluer and bluer because of the colloidal silver supplements they won't stop giving her, and everyone thinks, oh my god, Robin Williams must be coming on a spaceship really soon to help Mother ascend. Eventually, she passes away, and guess what? Shockingly, Robin Williams does not descend in an intergalactic spaceship to come collect the 103-pound body of Mother God.
You don't
And
say.
so the cult members just have her body. They don't know what to do with it. They thought Robin Williams was gonna come. So they hang out with it for 12 days until the police finally show up. Anyways, this whole thing is a trip. You just gotta watch it to believe it.
So they was hanging out with that body for 12 days. Man, when people, when they deep into their groups and their cult things, man, they believe anything, everything. That's just a prime example. Man, I wonder how many other crazy things out there that people believe. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. Call out the edits, man, when y'all see him.
Imagine being an animal so vile and wild. Not only did you traumatize a researcher, everything he learned about you had to be hidden from the public for almost 100 years. That's what happened to George Murray Levick. He was on an expedition in 1911 when he ran into a group of Adelie penguins. It was the largest colony on Earth, and since nobody had ever spent a whole breeding cycle there, George decided to be first. Oh, he f***ed around, and he spent 3 months finding out. What he found out was Adelie penguins are 50 shades of foul play. No pun intended, maybe. He watched the male penguins attempt to mate with literally anything, including other males, injured females, and even unsupervised penguin chicks.
What?
Now, but what really messed him up was watching a male score with a past tense, past expiration date female. Apparently, penguins aren't above self-service because he also witnessed one male get it on with an extra curvy piece of snowdrift. To completion, he was so appalled he referred to them as hooligan cocks. And remember, this was 1911. That had to be some kind of slur. George quickly realized that if male penguins understand consent, they could not care less about it because he reportedly watched one female that was too injured to walk try to crawl away, only for 2 hooligans to catch up to her and demoralize both her and George. I don't even know why he did this because, like, what more do you have to prove? But at one point, he did an experiment where he took the frozen, decapitated head of a penguin and put it on a pile of snow just to see how low the flightless felons could go. The answer was low enough. George put every messed up thing he learned in a manuscript, and the British Museum of Natural History decided history was exactly what his studies would be when they vaulted it, until it was rediscovered almost 100 years later in 2012. All that trauma, and he didn't even live to see it get published. But the worst part, these are Adelie penguins. Yep, it all adds up in the end.
He's the world.
The thing that got to me is, man, he did all this research. He wrote it down, I guess, to try to tell everybody, but they just decided to vault it. And then now got released. Like, when they decided we should learn those things, that makes you question, man, what else they vaulted that they deemed that we're not ready to learn yet. A lot of information out there. Just something to think about.
Smallest prisoner, you'll never guess the terrible things he's done. Part 2. Caroline saw a 5-year-old son stood in front of the oven, his face full of shock and confusion. He tried to explain, but his words were slurred and he could only give bits and pieces. Caroline and her husband immediately realized that their son had inadvertently shut his sister in the oven and that he had turned on the oven's heat. Caroline rushed to the oven and quickly opened the door. The heat from the oven hit her and she saw the tiny figure. Her skin blackened by the heat already dying, she hurriedly grabbed out her daughter and rushed to the car with her husband, driving as fast as she could to the hospital along the way.
Damn.
Caroline and her husband's hearts hung in their throats. They kept praying that their daughter would pull through. However, their world completely collapsed when the doctors told them that the child could not be saved. Due to the severity of her injuries, the incident left the Ashley family in deep grief.
Worst ways people have died, part 1. In 2016, a mother pushed her son on a swing for 2 days straight, non-stop, until he passed away. It turns out that sadly, she was mentally ill and was then sent to a mental institution. In 2018, a man named Keno Butler and his wife, Wendy Thompson, were drinking when they started having an argument. Wendy then attacked him with a knife and got him in the hand with it. But she didn't stop there. She then decided to jump on top of him, smothering him with over 300 pounds of body fat and sadly suffocating him. Before I tell you the last one, your boyfriend or girlfriend falls off a cliff with $20 billion. You can only save one. Who are you saving?
Girlfriend, man, easy choice.
Let me know down below. In 2021, Karina Smith had discovered that her own husband had been being very inappropriate with their children when they were younger. You won't believe this. She then filled a pot with boiling hot sugar water and dumped it on him while he was sleeping. He didn't survive that painful revenge.
Most Scary Urban Legends, Part 6. This is Krasu. She's a Thailand legend. She's a female spirit who wanders the fields at night. At first you would just see her face, until you look down and she has no body, and just her internal organs. Her guts are usually covered with fresh red blood. Her face appears to look somewhat like a vampire's. She has very sharp teeth, and sometimes has a blue halo around her head. She is always hungry for meat, whether that be animal meat or human meat. Before she goes hunting, she hides her headless body somewhere safe, and she needs to come back to it before sunrise. And then she becomes a normal person again for the day with no differences from anybody else. One of her origins was that she was a princess who was forced to marry a high-ranked Seminese member who killed her people in battle. But she loved somebody else and was caught with them by the Seminese member. She was then sentenced to be burned alive. She then asked the witch for help, who summoned a spell on her immune to fire, but the spell worked too late, and everything was burned besides her internal organs and head.
What do you guys think? The guys believe those urban legends, man?
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night.
Here
when
we go.
Apollo 11 landed, it only had 20 seconds of remaining fuel. 4 months ago, a deceased rapper by the name Gunyu had his corpse on stage while fans were partying around his body. The average person wastes 5 months of their lives waiting for red lights to turn green. Cruise ships have morgues, just in case someone, you know, during the trip. If you have red eyes after swimming, it's not from chlorine. It's from the chlorine mixing with other people's urine. The furthest part of the ocean from land is Point Nemo. If you get stuck there, you're not coming back. Sunburn are your cells dying to avoid being cancerous. Most laugh tracks and shows are people from the 50s, which means you're hearing the laughter of dead people. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 14.
What he said about Point Nemo, man. Now that I'm thinking about it, was Nemo with the movie, was that based off that point? You guys know, man, our movies and medias, now that I've been watching these videos with you guys, they're really based off of like some horrifying stories. That's something to keep in mind. And the thing about Gunyu, I didn't even believe about that until I guess this video confirmed it. I remember seeing it trending, but I assumed it was fake. Why on stage though? Edit. We've been doing this, man. We can spot them out.
Disturbing facts that will ruin your life. If you were to be pulled into a black hole, the point of gravity from your head to your toes is so powerfully different that the closer you get, they start to stretch and pull apart. It's called spaghettification. A body can swell to 3 times the normal size, especially if the person passes away in a bathtub. In the 1800s, Photographing posed dead bodies was a very normal practice. The smell of vomit actually comes from butyric acid, as does the smell of Parmesan cheese. If you shine a flashlight or smartphone on a newborn sea turtle for too long, it will start crawling around in circles, known as the ring of death. It means that the turtle's eyesight has been permanently damaged due to mistaking your lights for the moon that guides it to sea. By doing this, you have doomed that sea turtle to death right after birth. The bacteria in gingivitis is contagious. Be careful who you kiss. Armadillos can carry leprosy and pass it onto humans just by being in proximity. When it comes to heart disease, sometimes the very first symptom is sudden death, meaning you could be perfectly healthy and drop dead because you had heart disease and did not know it. The wondrous smell you get while cutting grass is actually a chemical distress signal. You're smelling the silent screams of your lawn. The outside of your eye prevents your immune system from ever knowing about the inside of your eye. If a puncture allows the two to meet, your immune system may attack and destroy your eye as the invader. Hit the plus sign if you want to learn more facts.
This is
Top in with us, you learning.
I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. But in Canada, there was this legend that one night a bunch of people saw a bright blue light in the sky, and the next day, an entire village of people disappeared.
Come
It turns
again?
out that legend is rooted in something that really happened. This is coming from this week's episode. I have a whole series on urban legends that ended up being true, and it's a very scary listen.
About to check
So
it
in
out.
Canada in 1930, a fur trapper named Joe LaBelle was riding in the river in his canoe when he came to a village he had seen before. Except this time when he came upon it, it looked like everyone had left in a hurry. Food was still cooking, and a bunch of dogs were barking and super hungry as if they had been left behind. But the strangest part of all of this was in the middle of the community, there was a grave that had been disturbed. And that reminded the fur trapper of a very scary story he had heard. The legend of the Tornrak, which was this demon that supposedly stalked the area. So he starts looking for someone who might know what happened to these people. They were a nomadic people. It didn't make any sense that they would have left all of their stuff behind.
Okay.
And that's when he finds a man in a hospital who was potentially part of the village. The man is so freaked out. He won't say anything at first, but eventually Joe gets him to talk, and he recognizes one word that the man says. Tornrak, the name of the evil deity that was potentially in the area.
Oh.
The police basically don't believe any of this, but they do acknowledge that before the disappearance, they did see blue lights in the sky that no one has been able to figure out what they were. I get more into the theories of what may have happened in this episode, and I also talk a little bit more about other urban legends that ended up being true.
Top
Could
5
be true.
urban legends that turned out to be real. Chuck E. Cheese animatronics move on their own.
No
Chuck
way.
E. Cheese has been long rumored to be haunted by animatronic figures that move on their own, even when the power is off. These tales were often dismissed as mere urban legends meant to spook children. However, in 2019, a former employee's testimony brought an eerie truth to light. The
Okay.
employee recounted how during after-hour maintenance, the animatronics would occasionally shift positions or emit sounds despite being turned down. This phenomenon was actually captured on video showing an animatronic character moving its eyes and mouth when the restaurant was closed. The unsettling footage showed the animatronic's eyes flickering to life and their mouths moving silently. One night, the employee was cleaning when they noticed an animatronic had shifted slightly from its usual position. At first, they thought it was just a trick of the light or a mistake, but then the animatronic's eyes glowed eerily in the darkened room. A soft mechanical whirring sound filled the air and its mouth began to move as if it was speaking. Desperate to prove they weren't imagining things, the employees set up a camera the next night. The footage showed the animatronics moving on their own, their eyes darting around and their mouths opening and closing in the darkness. The video spread among the staff, many of whom had had their own unsettling experiences. Some reported hearing faint, childlike laughter when the restaurant was empty, while others felt cold spots and the sensation of being watched. If you have the guts, follow for the next urban legend.
Creepy facts about your body you're gonna wish you didn't know. When you go down a drop on a roller coaster, you suddenly feel your stomach drop. It's not just you feeling nervous. What you're feeling are your organs actually moving. Have you ever noticed that an older person in your life seems to have very long, large ears? That's because your ears will never stop growing. Across your lifetime, you will spend an average of an entire year just sitting on a toilet. When we see brains outside of the human body, they usually look pretty solid, but your brain, while inside your skull while you're alive, is actually very soft. It's like melted butter.
Most unusual places in the world. Located in Quebec, Canada, this forest has a pretty creepy atmosphere. It might be because the ground looks like it's moving, making it seem like Mother Earth is taking a deep breath. This next one is Actually terrifying. Located in Penang, Malaysia, this huge water tornado was getting extremely close to this apartment building. Fortunately, it stopped right in front of the building because it ran out of water. And how about this one? It used to be a hiking area before it got flooded, so everything you see here used to be above water. Imagine being a fish and seeing this appear out of nowhere.
The strangest places in the world, part 1. Firstly, on top of a hill in Pennsylvania, some stones can be found that shouldn't actually be there, because there's no nearby high terrain where they could have originated. These are called the ringing rocks, because whenever something hits these stones, they make a strange ringing noise. Next is the Petrifying Well in England, where water flows from a rock and turns whatever it touches into stone. As you can see, people often leave items like hats, teddy bears, or even bicycles, which appear to have already been turned into stone. Some people believe there's a mystical power, but the scientific reason behind this is the unusually high mineral content in the water, which forms a hard mineral shell on any object it comes into contact with. And within a few months, everything essentially becomes a stone statue.
Crazy things happening in the world right now. An elderly Romanian woman was using this amber nugget worth $1 million as a doorstop for decades. John Bon Jovi convinced a woman to not jump off a bridge in Nashville. Someone felt that a Louis Vuitton staff member was being rude to them, so they made them count $110,000 in cash over 2 hours, then left without buying anything. This billionaire was caught stealing sand from a public beach. Chuck E. Cheese is now launching a monthly subscription program. An apartment complex billed this woman $15,000 for breaking her lease a year early because she died. Another survey shows that teens are dramatically losing interest in school and hear about college too much. A Lamborghini and a Harley were seized from an unemployed man with unexplained wealth who was later found to be taking advantage of unemployment benefits. The cucumber trend has been blamed for a massive hit to Iceland's cucumber supply. This woman was in agony when she found out that she was allergic to her own period. The internet's...
How is that even possible? That last one, man, threw my brain for a loop. I guess her body can't handle the hormones or something like that. And that freaking lady using that movie as a doorstop for over a decade that's worth $1 million. Imagine you had $1 million, man, like just lying at your feet for a whole decade and you didn't even know.
Currently going insane over this viral video. The video shows a balloon randomly going down the street with no wind and no one there. It also happens to be at 3 a.m. I mean, check this out. They always say there's a lot of lost souls in LA. My question to you guys is, could it be a lost soul?
What do you think? Or that's just a random balloon just floating on the street? I thought Vegas was supposed to be the city of the lost souls. Now it's Los Angeles too? That one surprised me, man. You know
things humans were never meant to see. This is why you don't run into random caves or spaces. Just because it's open to air doesn't mean you can breathe in there.
Whoa.
Floods caused by heavy rain in Veneto, Italy.
Hey, trap.
Here is the necessary bathing method for sheep to eliminate parasites.
Just press them down? What the hell?
Scientists found weird new marine species off New Zealand coast.
So, the first pictures
that?
since Jaguar's major shock rebranding have leaked, and they weren't kidding when they said a change was coming. Now, the leaked pictures show a bright pink and blue electric vehicle that has an extremely minimalistic design. It has an oval-shaped steering wheel, a wide front Rolls-Royce looking grille, and no rear window, probably using cameras instead. And as promised, the iconic Jaguar emblem and hood ornament has been replaced. It's now just a gold plate near the front left of the wheel, and the word Jaguar just on the front of the grille. So the question is, what do you think of the new concept? Has Jaguar just saved or destroyed the company?
Moments after this video.
I like the old design better. My personal opinion.
Was captured, this mother threw her 2-year-old son in the dumpster. And you know what makes this case even more heartbreaking? 11 days before this happened, a stranger called the police to report this mother for beating her children in the middle of the street. This all happened on June 6th when 23-year-old Deja Smith called police and told them that she was at the park with 3 kids when suddenly her 2-year-old Jacoby Robinson Jr. disappeared. Police first believed that someone took Jacoby, but after hours of searching, they finally found his body inside a dumpster in the same apartment complex that the family lived in. Investigators began looking through the surveillance footage in the apartment and they noticed Deja walking towards the dumpster on that day, and she has her newborn attached to her on her chest and her 2 other children in the stroller. But in this video you see one child moving around and the other child who's in the bag isn't moving, and police believe that Jacoby was already deceased at this point. In this point of view, you can't see what's going on, but you can hear the dumpster close, and then Deja walked back with only 2 children. Now, this isn't the first time Deja has been accused of hurting her children. In 2022, she had her kids taken away for neglect, but she eventually regained custody of them 2 months before she took Jacoby's life. And just so you know, she also has 2 older children who were also taken away from her. But what makes this case so much more infuriating is that only 7 weeks after regaining custody of the little ones, a stranger saw her beating them in the middle of the street. And keep in mind, these little boys are only 2 years and under. The woman who happened to see the beating called police, and when police arrived, they found that there was no signs of abuse, so then they just left. Photos of the children were later taken, and it shows scratches and bruises all over their bodies. Deja and Jacoby's father were both charged with murder, and it turns out that Deja is now pregnant with her 6th child in prison.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing
Just don't
backstory.
stop.
These pieces of yarn in a first grade classroom are the trajectories of the bullets fired by the Sandy Hook shooter in 2012, who killed 20 children and 6 adults. The reason that the angles are pointing downward is quite disturbing when you think about it. Dutch teenager Gary Slock and his mother Petra posted this photo to Facebook moments before their plane was shot down by Russians, killing all 298 people aboard. At first glance, it looks like this woman is resting peacefully, until you notice that that's a car roof twisted around her like bed sheets. She jumped from the top of the Empire State Building and happened to land in this very graceful, peaceful way. This is the last photo ever taken of 18-year-old Jolie Callan, who after this photo was taken was shot twice in the head and pushed off of the cliff by her ex-boyfriend. While this may seem like a normal family photo, just below the wife is a rattlesnake about to strike her arm. She was bitten and survived, but the dog died. This photo shows a man and a woman on the 70s game show, The Dating Game. The man in this photo who won the date with the woman is Rodney Alcala, a famous serial killer. Cheryl Bradshaw, the woman, found him extremely creepy and after the camera stopped rolling, refused to go on a date with him, possibly saving her life.
Understand, it's a generational Hall of Fame levels of destruction, violence, and straight up hating for this line to get his name. You might know him, this is Ntwa Dumela, which is Swahili for he who greets with fire. He sure did. He ran a pride with his brother in Sevuti, Botswana, and even though he was smaller, he stood on business. He was like a honey badger in a lion's body. Really think about what that means. Researchers watched him press a whole raging bull elephant at a watering hole. There's also that time he stared down literal death. Black Death, that is. That's their nickname. Magic Mufasa listened to NBA Youngboy. That's the time he was on. But in Ntwa Dumela's defining personality trait, he hated hyenas with generational prejudice. He who greets with fire would pull up to any hyena's front door with smoke. It was literally on sight. He'd even go out of his way to find a hyena leader and erase the matriarch in front of the whole hood. He actually did it so often, he single-handedly dissolved the hyena clans around him. He'd also pick up spawn kills by crippling hyena cubs. Imagine being walking population control. It's estimated that he dropped nearly 40 hyenas in his life, and I say estimated because that's just what they saw. It's definitely higher. The thing is, lions already have no love for a walking laugh track. It's just that Ntwa Dumela took it 10 steps further. Like if his pride was around hyenas or they heard them, they'd be annoyed, but they wouldn't waste the energy chasing around something in 100-degree weather that they're not going to eat in the end. I'll let the walking hyena hate crime hero snicker, and best believe he'll divide them like one. This lion lived a life fueled by pure spite and hostility, and that quantity of hatred has to be studied. Also, the way he passed sense doesn't fit my narrative, so I'm gonna disregard that the more you don't know.
Scopophobia is the excessive fear of being stared at, and is sometimes referred to as the phobia or feeling that someone is watching you. I'm now going to show you a series of increasingly unsettling photos, and if these scare you, you might have scopophobia.
I'm good. I don't think I'll have that fear. I don't know how you pronounce it again, but fear of somebody staring at you. I'm pretty good with that. I just get annoyed. I don't get scared when people stare at me. I just be annoyed. I'm like, what do you want, man? So yeah, I'm good on that one. I think I passed that with flying colors, bro. We know what this is.
Here's some tips that could save your life that you're actually likely to use. If you're ever outside and your hair's standing straight up, you're about to be struck by lightning. So what you have to do is crouch into this position and brace yourself. If your house ever randomly smells like fish, 9 out of 10 times it's an electrical fire. If you're ever in a foreign country and you don't know the emergency number, dial 112. It's the universal number for emergency. If a tornado looks like it's not moving, it's actually moving towards you. If there's ever a gas leak in your house, don't turn on the lights. A spark from the light switch can blow up your entire house. If you're ever in a crashing elevator, lie down flat to evenly distribute your weight. If you happen to fall into a subway track, look for the little crawl space and hide in there. If there's a deer on a road, you have a better chance of surviving if you drive into it. But if it's a moose, drive into a ditch. Even if you have no service, you can still call 911. Share this video with a loved one to keep them safe.
I remember when I learned that 911 didn't need service.
Interesting people you've never heard of. Darius was arrested 32 times for commandeering buses and trains and pretending to be the driver when he wasn't. Dalton Getty is a man who's been making pencil tip artwork for over 25 years. Philippe Kahn is the man who invented the camera phone back in 1997. This underachieving Princeton student in the 1970s wrote a paper on how to build a nuclear bomb. He received an A, but he never got his paper back because it was seized by the FBI. Patrick Acton made a complete model of Hogwarts with only 600,000 matchsticks and 60 liters of glue. A man named Dalton sued Bank of America for $1,784 billion because he was unhappy with their service. Kevin invented a micronation in the state of Nevada that's called Molossia. It consists entirely of his house, front yard, and backyard. This Argentinian engineer in the 1930s created a rain machine, made it rain in multiple places at once, and then disappeared without a trace.
The weirdest online jobs.
Man.
There's a company called KO Bayo that offers 10-second vertical videos for you to buy. The videos range from people showing off wads of cash to videos of people sitting in sports cars. The point of these videos are to make it seem like you're the one filming it so you can post it online and flex to your friends. One person who makes these clips for people to buy said he makes $3,000 USD per month.
This child molester in Thailand.
Fake image, bro. I'm telling you, man, this image, man, it's all a mirage, bro. He would like me $3,000 a month, man, just by selling fake clips so people can flex. That goes to show you, man, how far people will go, man, just to impress people they don't even know.
Man by the name of Mr. Swirl wasn't caught for years because he used a swirl app to conceal his identity by swirling his face. In 2007, they finally managed to unswirl his face and caught him and found him. Mr. Swirl used to go to different countries, become a school teacher, and then assault the children he was teaching. He did this from country to country, and his longest run was in Thailand. He was a Canadian man by the name of Christopher Paul Neal. To this date, he's thought to have over 300 victims. On top of assaulting the kids, he also made CP with them and had him in a huge hard drive. Some say that it was leaked on the internet, some say it wasn't. They found a lot when they raided him. Now, what I'm about to say next is about to make a lot of people mad. He is now free today. He only served about 10 years in prison in Canada. So from 2007 until 2017, he served. Now he's released and free and living in Canada. Also baffled me is the fact they couldn't unswirl his face for years. You could have picked a random graphic designer off the street and gotten them to unswirl the face in like 10 minutes. Let me know your thoughts on this story.
And more justice, man. I'm telling you. Justice system, I say it time and time again. Here, right here. It's an ongoing battle, man. That's life to me.
So one night, this girl, her name is Kaylee, decided to stay home while her family went out to dinner and stayed home and watched Netflix. While watching Netflix, she started hearing noises, little scuffles and bangs. She shrugged it off and thought it was just her dog, Rocky. While continuing to watch her show, she starts to hear her mother calling her name.
Kaylee, I'm home alone. Help me, Kaylee.
You see, the scary thing is her mom was still out with her dad and her sister. So who the heck was in the kitchen? Because it sounded identically like her. But then the scary part is she hears her dad start to call her name.
Haley.
Haley.
She opened it?
Hello? Hello? What? What the hell is going on? Hello?
She turns her phone camera on and goes to investigate. Has she seen scary movies? She goes to look for her dog Rocky in the kitchen and quickly snaps this picture. Mind you, her dog normally looks like this. Kylie's heart starts racing. She runs for her life back to her room.
Crazy things happening in the world right now. A woman from Alabama is suing football coach Lane Kiffin, Donald Trump and his son, along with JD Vance for $1 million gazillion because she's claiming that they stole money from her bank account. The Canadian Army has come out and said that the newest military sleeping bags in design today are not suitable for Canadian winters. This man from Massachusetts bought this house for $395,000 despite warnings that it will fall into the ocean. A new startup wants to sell you sunlight after dark using space mirrors. Schools are putting vape detectors in bathrooms that were paid for by the vape company Juul. This woman was arrested at an Applebee's after arguing with the manager that if she paid $15.99 for all you can eat, that would include her entire table instead of just her. Scientists are saying to never take health advice from the world's oldest people. Workers in Japan are hiring resignation experts to help them quit their jobs. A Florida surgeon is being sued after a patient passed away when he took away his liver instead of his spleen.
The influencer that was caught stealing $500 worth of stuff from Target and then posting it on TikTok was caught stealing again from the same Target. So the first time she was arrested was in October, and then she went on TikTok and posted a video with a huge caption basically saying that it doesn't define her and that she's going to try to do better. Now, 2 weeks later, she's caught again at the same Target that she stole the first time, but instead of stealing $500 worth of stuff, this time it was only $200. I already spoke about why people are so invested in this story, and it has to do with her using the items that she steals in her videos to gain attention and create content. Now I'm kind of questioning if she's doing this on purpose, because the first time she stole, I went on her TikTok and she had around 320 something thousand followers. Now that I went back on her TikTok, she has 422,000 followers. It's crazy how social media works, because you can do something so stupid like this, but you can still gain attention, a following, and a platform.
Imagine you're me.
She's addicted to that feeling, man. She's addicted to the clout. She's a clout demon. You getting arrested, man, but her numbers are jumping, so she's saying to herself, hey, it's working. Don't be a clout demon, seekers.
Scrolling on your For You page in the middle of the night, and you see this. Now, this is a doll. Let's get that out of the way first. And this woman married this doll. Here you go. Just picture them at their wedding. And she has like an entire family of like zombie dolls. But is this not so like unnerving? And also, is that not like a child zombie doll? I understand this is not what my like page normally is about. Like, it's usually like crime and like hauntings and stuff like that. But like, this is freaking me out.
She married that doll. Hey, everybody has their own vices, man. But she married a zombie child doll. That doesn't raise any questions or red flags. Hey.
I'm going to sentence you to 20 years in Florida State Prison. That's to be followed by 10 years of probation. Upon your release, and the Florida State Prison was, of course, with all credit for time served, you must initially report to the Bradenton Department of Corrections.
The spirits in this house tried to lead me into a trap. This is one of the most haunted homes in Minnesota, the Warden's house in Stillwater. The spirits in this home are very active, especially if you ring this bell that was once owned by the minister pictured in the portrait above. During an investigation, somebody rang that bell and the portrait fell off of the wall, so of course we had to ring it. The history of this house is pretty interesting. It was lived in by 13 different wardens from a nearby prison, and multiple people have died inside of the home. But the most active part of this building is in the upstairs, specifically in the children's room. The legend of this house involves a woman named Gertrude. Gertrude gave birth to a child, but then shortly afterwards she died. And to this day, people report seeing her wandering the halls, especially upstairs, looking for her lost baby. There's a lot of creepy stuff in this house, like this outfit and actual locks of hair from the boy in the portrait that I just showed you. But the spookiest object is this doll. During our investigation, the tour guide actually had to go to the back room to bring this doll out. She told us that she keeps the doll in the very back of the house because it's so haunted. And in the past, she said the doll has typed out messages on people's phones. There's also this bed that a young man died in from tuberculosis. This is him in the portrait. So let me know, would you spend the night in this haunted house? Our full investigation from this place is on YouTube now.
Another cold case has been solved as the remains of a couple found in a pond in Georgia have been identified by a family in New York whose grandparents disappeared over 40 years ago. Charles and Catherine Romer were on their way home to New York from Miami Beach, Florida in April 1980. 74-year-old Charles and 76-year-old Catherine stopped at a Holiday Inn in Brunswick, Georgia on their way home. They unpacked their luggage in their hotel room, but then they disappeared. The couple and their car simply vanished into thin air. And for 44 years, they remained missing, with their family having no idea what happened to them. Their disappearance was investigated as foul play, but no answers were ever discovered. That is, until last month. On November 22nd, a nonprofit called Sunshine State Sonar recovered a 1979 Lincoln Continental, which was the car that they were driving, from a pond that was between the Royal Inn Hotel and a highway. When the car was removed from the pond, a human bone was discovered. And now the family has confirmed that the remains belong to their grandparents, Charles and Catherine Romer. In a statement, the family said, "We are deeply saddened and equally relieved that our grandparents Charles and Catherine Romer's 44-year mystery disappearance has been solved." They said, "While this discovery brings closure, it has still been very emotional. Sadly, Charles Romer Jr., Jim Romer, and Frank Heller are not with us to share this momentous turn of events and to know their parents will finally be laid to rest in peace." They thanked Jason Suhadra of Myrtle Beach, who, quote, pinpointed the exact location of the vehicle and shared his findings with all the agencies involved. And they also thanked the Glenn County Police, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and Sunshine State Sonar. Minimal remains were found and their causes of death have not been released, and it's not immediately clear if their deaths are being investigated as foul play, but it does appear that at this point investigators believe their disappearances and deaths were the result of a tragic accident. Rest in peace, Charles and Catherine.
At least the family got some peace.
The man you just saw in that video was Andrew McAuley. Before he disappeared, Andrew was a pretty well-known mountaineer and kayaker. In his life, Andrew fell in love with the sport of kayaking, and he became very well known in the sea kayaking community because he would set off solo on his small kayak and travel great distances across the ocean. But his biggest goal in life and challenge was to cross the Tasman Sea. Andrew made his first attempt to cross the Tasman Sea in December of 2006, but he called it off after one night when he discovered that he was having trouble staying warm while sleeping in the kayak overnight. But on January 11th, 2007, he wanted to try again. But it was during this voyage that he would vanish into thin air. So he set off on January 11th, but on February 9th, Andrew sent out a distress call. In this call, he said, "Do you copy? This is Kayak 1. Do you copy? Over. I've got an emergency situation. I'm in a kayak about 30 kilometers from Milford Sound. I need a rescue. My kayak's sinking, fell off into the sea, and I'm going down." It's really eerie because if you search Andrew's name, a couple of blog posts pop up that people made in the days after he was declared missing, with headlines that read along the lines of, "Let's hope he is all right." Andrew's partly flooded kayak was discovered on February 10th floating in the sea, but Andrew was never found. Eerily, his camera was still left in the kayak, along with the memory stick that chronicled his journey up until the time that he went missing. That's what the recordings from the beginning of this TikTok were taken from. To this day, nobody knows exactly what happened to Andrew. There are theories about killer waves that came out of nowhere, but his body's never been recovered. And no trace of him, no bones, no clothing has...
You probably didn't know. A licking machine is what made the discovery that it took 364 licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. No smoking signs on airplanes only became mandatory after a fire on a flight from Brazil to Paris caused the deaths of everyone on board except one person due to smoke inhalation. Bob Ross's hair was naturally straight, but he got a perm to save money on haircuts while he was touring the United States penniless in his mobile home. He actually hated his curly hair, but he kept it because it became iconic. The British scientist who helped develop the breathalyzer was caught drunk driving. Children of South Naknek, Alaska are flown daily to attend school, riding the United States' only flying school bus. 85% of the world's canned pumpkin is processed in one plant in Morton, Illinois, aka the pumpkin capital of the world. Japan has one vending machine for every 30 people.
How animals see the world.
Night vision. Okay.
These are the most disturbing things found in new houses, part 1. Up first, this couple bought a new house when they suddenly discovered a secret hidden room underneath the staircase. This is absolutely disturbing, and I wonder what the previous owner did in this room. Next up, this man just bought a new house when he realized the past owner left their mirror. He then decided to take it off and discovered something truly disturbing behind it. The previous owner had a camera hidden behind it. I wonder if he was spying on people in his house when he lived there, or if he wants to spy on the new people who moved in. Either way, it's very disturbing. Finally, this man's friend bought a new house when he suddenly moved the carpet and found the exact spot where the previous owner died. This is very creepy, especially because that's a body stain.
I'm out as soon as I see that, man. I couldn't stay there.
Archaeologists had just discovered the first pharaoh's tomb in more than 100 years. Thutmose II is the last undiscovered king of Egypt's 18th dynasty. And now that they've astonishingly found his tomb, it's become the most significant archaeological discovery since 1922, which is when they found Tutankhamun's tomb. And although Thutmose's mummy was missing, they discovered artifacts with inscriptions of his name, and it also appears the tomb to be flooded. So now they believe that more of its contents, and his mummy of course, were moved to a new undiscovered crypt nearby. The director of the excavation said the possible existence of a second and most likely intact tomb of Thutmose II is now an astonishing possibility.
The three fast...
That's actually insane to think about, man. We still finding the pharaoh's tombs and things like that, man. I saw a video a couple days ago how Mr. Beast just exploring the pyramids in Egypt. I didn't even know that was possible. He just like, if you have enough money, man, you can buy it out. Man, wild to think about.
Fastest animals in the world. Only 0.1% can name them all, can you? Number 3, the cheetah. Now this cat is the real deal when it comes to speed. It has this amazing ability to accelerate super fast, allowing it to reach these crazy speeds almost instantly. Just picture this. It can run as fast as 62 miles per hour or 100 kilometers per hour. Making it one of the fastest animals on land. Now imagine, you're running as fast as a car on a highway. Number 2. Next up, we've got the black marlin. This fish is known for its crazy speed underwater. It can reach up to about 80.78 miles per hour, or 130 kilometers per hour. It's pretty much like an underwater missile. But before we move on to the top spot, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and favorite this video. Number 1. And now, in the top spot, we have the peregrine falcon. This bird's got razor-sharp wings and a hunting method that will literally take your breath away. It can hit speeds over 198.84 miles per hour or 320 kilometers per hour when it's diving down to catch its prey. It's the fastest predator in the animal kingdom, the king of the skies. It's as if Superman himself turned into a bird. Now imagine, you're moving as fast as these creatures, sprinting at a pace that makes your head spin, or swimming through the ocean's depths with the grace of a ballet dancer. What would you do with speed like that? Let me know in the comments. And remember, don't forget to subscribe.
Become the Flash. Simple. Oh, what the hell, man? That's actually amazing to think about. They can hit those speeds. I didn't think a bird would be the fastest, I guess, predator known to man, but The more you know. As I watch these clips with you guys, man, it always expands my knowledge, bitch. I'm thankful
These
for
are
that.
some of the largest sinkholes in the world. First is the Morning Glory spillway. This sinkhole didn't actually form naturally, but it was created by engineers for a special purpose. To ensure that the dam wouldn't overflow during rainfall, they created this sinkhole to stop flooding. It's a 200-foot pit, meaning anyone who falls in has no chance of getting out. Next is the Great Blue Hole, which is located in Belize. As beautiful as this hole looks from above, it's actually incredibly dangerous and 407 feet deep. Many incredibly dangerous shark species and several dead bodies have been discovered inside. Finally, the Guatemala Sinkhole. In 2010, a giant hole formed in the middle of the city, which engulfed a 3-story factory building and 5 people. Now, there are 3 major reasons why this sinkhole appeared. Flooding in Guatemala, the eruption of a volcano 25 miles away from the city, and the presence of limestone under the Earth's crust. The sinkhole was 300 feet deep, but surprisingly only resulted in the death of 1 person.
People who survived unsurvivable things. Benduma Silmona. This man fought with a leopard and killed it with his own bare hands.
Legend.
Rommel Rome. He survived 18 lethal injections. Tsutomu Yamaguchi. He survived 2 atomic bombs. Anatoly Pogorsky stuck his head in a particle accelerator. Jacob Miller. He got shot between the eyes and survived. Dick Williams survived the Titanic. Julianne Kopke. She survived a plane crash. Aaron Ralston survived after 5 days of being trapped in a canyon. Vesna Valovic. She survived a 33,000-foot fall when her plane exploded.
This was the real life Fortnite. In the 1960s, a man named Hugh Jazz was a famous billionaire who owned a private island. He would hire men to take over 100 people from their homes at night while they were sleeping. And when they all woke up, he would make them compete in a game. But the contestants didn't know what they were in for. Before I tell you the rest of the story, I advise you to check if your phone is being spied on by clicking here, then on here, and if you see this app, delete it immediately. He would pile them up in a huge air balloon, and they were forced to jump out with parachutes and land on the island. There he would force them to unalive each other till the last person was standing. The winner received a lifetime supply of riches and would have to sign an NDA saying they would never speak of this again. People who refused to play were permanently eliminated by Hugh Jazz. He would stay in an underground bunker with the world's richest elites watching this on a monitor screen, like it was an everyday sport. They would laugh and make bets on who would win or who would lose first. He did this survival challenge around 50 times before one contestant managed to make a raft and escape the island. 15 days later, when the contestant finally got to land, he told authorities about the famous Hugh Jazz. Eventually, authorities came to the island and found him in a bunker with 10 other famous and rich individuals. They were all arrested for their crimes, and all the survivors on the island were rescued. But eventually, Hugh Jazz escaped and was broken out of prison, never to be seen again.
This
Squid
is one of
Games.
the scariest urban legends I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. So there's this stretch of road in Turkey along the D100, and the urban legend says that if your car breaks down on the side of this road, do not get out of the car. Because according to the locals, one night, a few people got into an accident, and when they got out of their cars, they all melted on the road. Well, this is coming from an episode I just did on urban legends that ended up being true, but it turns out there is a reason that they all spread this legend around. In 1965, a passenger bus was traveling down this road when it crashed into a big truck carrying a bunch of water, and it caused water to spill out all over the road. The passengers got out of the bus because they were okay, but when their feet touched the pavement, their shoes started to melt, and it felt like their feet were on fire. And that's because the truck was not carrying water, it was carrying nitric acid, an acid that dissolves skin on contact. As they were on the ground crawling away from the accident, the acid was melting the skin off of their bones. And the worst part in all of this is that a group of 12 people saw a bunch of water that had collected in a drainage ditch and thought they should jump into it to protect themselves. But really, they jumped into a pool of undiluted acid and dissolved within moments. If you want to hear more urban legends and the even scarier stories they're based on, check out this episode of the Heart Size Pounding podcast, and this is part of a whole series that we do.
That did have my heart pounding, bro. Imagine thinking there's water you stepping into acid. That's like the worst fate I've heard, man, watching these clips with you guys. Those urban legends, man, they be based on truth, so you always gotta pay attention to them.
That not only makes me feel sick to my stomach, but also completely enraged simultaneously. And if you're a sensitive viewer, this one isn't for you. Meet Hugo Ferreira. Many of you will not know his name or his case, and honestly, I'm not surprised. I myself only became aware of his disgusting crime today. And as for media house coverage on the case, well, it's at a bare minimum. Hugo is a 37-year-old man from Valfordine in Carltonville, and he has been convicted of a heinous crime. On the 8th of June 2023, after an argument with the mother of his newborn daughter, he took the fully clothed infant and left the back room accommodation they shared in the old railway houses of Valfordine. In the short space of time that he was gone, he was brutally SAing his 8-day-old daughter. Yeah, I'll give that information a second to sink in. Later that day, he returned back with the injured infant, clothing missing. His girlfriend at the time, the mother of the child, then took the baby to the woman on the main house of the property. Shortly after, an ambulance was called along with the police. Hugo was arrested, and the infant would later succumb to her injuries on June 9th in Carltonville Hospital. Last year, he was sent to Sterkfontein Psychiatric Hospital for an evaluation. There, he was ultimately found to be fit to stand trial. He has been in custody in Polokwane since June of 2023, but only on the 7th of February 2025 did he finally plead guilty to the charges against him, namely murder and the case has been postponed to the 25th of February for the preparation of a pre-sentence report. This document basically showcases the background of an individual in question to allow the court to ultimately decide on an appropriate sentence. As much as this case disturbs me, you know the drill. Keep your eyes on my feed and I'll be sure to keep you in the loop. Until the next one, Bella out.
I want to talk about how Count Orlok doesn't really look like a classic vampire, because there's a lot of historical context to these looks. So first off, in the recent Nosferatu, the director had no interest in just recreating the Count Orlok look. Instead, he went back to old vampire folklore from New England, back when people thought vampires were just regular dead people that could possess people from the grave. So he wanted Count Orlok to look like a real Romanian nobleman that had died. And that's different from the original Count Orlok, who literally was supposed to look like a rat. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, it's not really more complicated than that. The original came out in 1922 and is really just a metaphor for the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu killed 50 million people between 1918 and 1920 and was brought back on warships from people returning home after World War I. And they play on the fear of that plague in both movies. There's lots of ships and lots and lots and lots of rats. Rats, of course, have become a symbol of the plague because it's believed that they transported the bubonic plague around. But what's the most interesting in this, I think, is that the original Nosferatu came out 4 years after the Spanish flu started, and our Nosferatu came out 4 years after COVID.
Extinct animals caught on camera.
Coincidence? I think not.
Pterodactyl. Look carefully.
I don't think that's a pterodactyl. Hold up. I'm about to revise my statement. Similarities, I see. What do you guys think? Is that cap?
3 normal things in one country but shocking to the rest of the world. Part 12. Number 3. In Germany, the deposit system for bottles and cans actively encourages recycling. When you buy a drink, you pay a small additional sum, called Pfand, which is refunded when you return the empty bottle or can to a collection point. This initiative, aimed at promoting recycling and reducing waste, allows consumers to earn a bit of money in return. Number 2. In Japan, the tradition of Valentine's Day is somewhat different from many other countries. On February 14th, it is usually the women who give chocolates to men, whether it's romantic love, work colleagues, or friends. Men are not supposed to give gifts on Valentine's Day. However, they have their turn a month later, on March 14th, during White Day, where they are expected to give a gift in return to those who gave them chocolates. Number 1. Public toilets in America are often surprising to foreigners due to the lack of privacy they offer. Stalls are designed with large gaps between the doors and frames, allowing a partial view inside. Additionally, the doors are usually shorter, sometimes exposing users' legs. While this design is typical in the US, it can shock those who are used to complete privacy in public toilets.
Like me, man. I don't think I need complete privacy everywhere, bro. Imagine I'm about to say somebody come from a different country coming over seeing freaking bathrooms. They like, what y'all got going on here?
Cursed games you should never play. Part 12.
Talk about
Bloody
it.
Mary. To play this game, you'll need an indoor setting. This place needs to be able to block any and all light from coming into it. Then, gather your supplies. You will need a candle, some sort of lighter, and a mirror. Then, wait until nightfall. Once that hits, enter your room alone. Set up the mirror if you need to. Light the candle and then place it in front of the mirror. Now, start repeating the name Bloody Mary. With each repetition, continue to add volume to your voice. Do this until you hit 13 repetitions. Once you get to number 13, make sure you're not in arm's reach of the mirror. She might scream at you, but you can handle that, you'll be fine. But if she's able to grab you from the mirror, you're probably not okay. If you survive this experience, immediately extinguish the candle. Turn on the lights and leave the room. Once you're fully completed, make sure you never use this mirror again.
I never play those types of games. I'm not putting that energy in my life at all.
Hey man, foxes are cute. And if you want them to stay that way, do not watch this video. Fun fact, the wild carnivore with the most real estate on Earth is the red fox. If you live anywhere that isn't a penguin playground, chances are there's a fox in your area. And there's two reasons. Number one, they can adapt to basically everything. And two, they'll eat literally anything. Anything. Okay, story time. My favorite fox is the Arctic fox. They're like the Bear Grylls of canines. They'll eat anything, even if it means shadowing a polar bear to pick its leftovers, even if it means eating literal leftovers. Yeah, forbidden fertilizer. Now the problem is the polar bear playbook revolves around sea ice to hunt. Less sea ice means less polar prey, means less leftover for the ice puppy. Last chance to scroll, wouldn't blame you. So there was this documentary where this Arctic fox couldn't find any food, and eventually her HP hit 0 and she became a wuss. Yeah, she was way past tense, and that's when another Arctic fox found her. Remember, I said anything. So fox number 2 started eating expired fox number 1. Except that got the attention of fox number 3, and with calories hard to come by, you wasn't going. They started to squabble, and like a sick joke, that attracted even more famished foxes. So I'm over here watching 7 or 8 aggressive Q-tips fighting over the canine corpse of their own kind. It gets worse, because there's something I didn't tell you. Foxes live everywhere, and in some places red foxes overlap with Arctic foxes. Except the reds are much bigger. So eventually came a BBC, big black canine melanistic red fox that ran through the Arctics like Philly through Mahomes' O-line. So that's how I watched a giant black fox eating an Arctic fox while the other Arctics could only watch in stark jealousy. Hey, sometimes that's how nature goes. The more you know.
I did not know about foxes. They eat their own.
This girl killed her mum so that she wouldn't find out she got kicked out of school. On the 3rd of March 2020, police were called to do a welfare check at a property in Ohio. Brenda Powell lived in the house, the 50-year-old mother of Sydney Powell. Brenda had actually been on the phone with Sydney's former school. This was the University of Mount Union. Now, during the telephone call, a staff member heard repeated thuds and screaming, so authorities were alerted. Inside, they found Brenda Powell in a serious condition. She was rushed to hospital but died from her injuries. Brenda had been unaware that her 19-year-old daughter had been kicked out of the school. During her telephone conversation, Brenda was struck in the head and then stabbed nearly 30 times by Sydney. However, when police investigated the murder, Sydney tried to claim that there had been a break-in. She told them that there had been a noise and her mum had instructed her to run away. She said she heard screaming, and when she ran back in, her mum was on the floor. Investigators saw through her lies and she eventually changed her story. At her trial, she pled not guilty by reason of insanity. Her defense argued that Sydney was suffering from undiagnosed schizophrenia. They stated that she killed while experiencing a psychotic episode. However, it is rare for people with schizophrenia to act violently. It was concluded that Sydney had been exaggerating her symptoms. She's recently been found guilty and is awaiting sentencing.
Here are some crazy things happening.
That's because you're afraid of the truth.
An unidentified man stole 3 amputated legs from a Bucharest hospital. 1 is still missing. An elementary school student went permanently blind after eating only a diet of chicken nuggets. Japanese elderly women are choosing to live in Japan's largest prison for women because they feel lonely and are struggling, and it has good benefits. The Walgreens CEO announced that their anti-theft program has backfired because, quote, when you lock things up,
but you also don't sell as much of them. Police charged a woman with a definitely not drugs tote bag with trafficking meth. A man who mistakenly threw away his hard drive with Bitcoin on it in 2013 that's now worth $750 million is now trying to work with investors to buy the landfill that the trash went to because a court case dismissed his ability to have access to it. He says he can't work a 9-to-5 job and think about this every day and would rather just figure this out and dig through trash every day of his life if he has to.
Would you guys do that for $750 million, man? Digging through trash trying to find your treasure? I don't know who could go through that. Would it be worth it in the end? Because you might not find it. It's wasting time. And energy.
Breaking news, y'all. The Menendez brothers were attacked in prison, and I'm not sure what extent, but they said that they were brutally attacked in prison today. So, yeah, this news just came out after they received the information that their case is not going to be going back to trial. So that means that they're not going to get the chance to plead their case in front of the judge and possibly get resentenced or released early. This was in talks basically late last year, and yeah, so basically right after this, today, they get attacked in prison. Now, they said it was a very brutal attack, and they are in critical condition. Y'all, I don't know exactly what happened or what went down or who had it against them to the point where they got attacked in prison, but this is crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like at the end of the day, it's weird that the judge won't even go take this back to trial, because they said the judge said that the reason why they won't take this to trial is because they feel like it is a bunch of lies and it can make way for more lies, and it's all fabricated. But it was proven that the father actually did SA them, so I don't understand how this is lies.
Shocking tech facts you won't believe. Facebook's algorithms can predict and detect breakups before they happen. The world's most powerful supercomputer is faster than 6 million PS5s combined. There's more computers than humans on Earth. Every minute, 500 plus hours of video are uploaded to YouTube. 4K videos can chew through your storage fast. That's why we all need a way to compress and convert files without losing quality. I use Wondershare UniConverter for this. This all-in-one tool converts, compresses and enhances videos in just a few clicks. Just grab a video, run it through the compressor and boom, instant result. Or choose any image you want, run it through the image enhancer, the results are amazing. UniConverter can convert files with over 1,000 different file formats. MP4 to MOV to MKV. Anything you need with quick conversion. Ready to level up your content? Download Wondershare UniConverter and create with no limits. The link is in my bio.
Clips you need to see before you die. Part 8. Crocodiles in Indonesia have learned to fake drowning to lure humans into the water. To survive in the jungle, it's crucial to stay alert every moment. He was 100% focused.
I see that leap ability.
Follow for more.
Talked about the Jaws ride animatronic many times, but we're going to talk about it again because I found some new pictures and I want to traumatize y'all as much as I'm traumatized. Every day I'm depressed, I just remind myself, hey, at least I'm not in the water with a Jaws ride animatronic, and I feel all better. So the one in Japan is about 4 times as big as the one in America. Let me just show you the comparison on this. Like, look how big that is in comparison to the people. Look how massive that huge, gigantic animatronic is in that water. Okay, another one for scale. This thing is massive. And that's the one we got in America. Like, bro's goofy looking. Granted, this was only like one of the versions, but like all of the animatronics that were in America were so much smaller than the ones in Japan. Like this, oh god. This with that wire, sickening, and my worst nightmare. Here is a lovely picture that made me almost have a panic attack about 5 minutes ago of all of these wires, hydraulics, and everything that is typically under the water. And then there goes Bruce's head up at the top, the animatronic that pops, this part pops it out of the water. I hate everything about this. And tomorrow we're going to talk about the Jaws movie, and there's even more terrifying pictures from the Jaws movies filming them. This is gross. Watch this video and let me know how you're feeling, and would you be able to go on the Jaws ride? Because I think they only still have it in Japan. I rode it when it was in Los Angeles in 2009, and it traumatized me, but I could not do the one in Japan. Watch this.
This looks lifelike, man.
This was one of the biggest medical disasters in history. In the late 1950s, a new pharmaceutical was being introduced called thalidomide, and it was a miracle cure for morning sickness for pregnant women. Doctors and patients loved it. It was marketed as being safe, and it really seemed like a medical miracle for a little while. But by 1961, thalidomide was pulled off of shelves worldwide. Why, you ask? Because thousands of babies were being born with severe malformations. Some babies were born with tiny arms and legs or missing limbs. Some were born blind, deaf, or with internal organ damage, and some babies didn't survive at all. It turns out the earlier the mother took it in her pregnancy, the more severe the damage was. People were obviously devastated, and this caused a lot of public panic, and a lot happened subsequently. But first, let's talk about how this happened. And it turns out it comes down to one oversight. And that was that thalidomide was never tested on pregnant animals. At the time, drug testing wasn't nearly as regulated as it was today. And there just wasn't a regulation for companies to test how a medicine is affecting a developing embryo. It was just kind of assumed to be safe. So when thalidomide finally was tested on pregnant animals, the results were the same. The animals were giving birth to babies with the same malformations. This tragedy transformed many people's lives, and it also transformed the way medicine is developed. The field of toxicology was born because of this tragedy. The world started to demand rigorous testing of medicine before it could reach human patients. Most of the people affected were in the UK. It never made it to the United States, and it's actually all thanks to the efforts of this woman. This is Frances Oldham Kelsey, the official in charge of the FDA review of the medicine thalidomide. And she refused to approve the drug until she saw evidence that it wasn't harmful to pregnant women, which ultimately it was. So thanks to this woman's due diligence, she saved countless lives, and she actually received an award from President Kennedy. There's also a corporate greed component to this story, because initially the victims received no compensation from the manufacturers of thalidomide.
Sick.
It took years of legal battles and public outrage to finally make things right. And in 1973, a settlement was reached and the Thalidomide Trust was established to support survivors. If we're to learn anything from the thalidomide tragedy, it's that we have to learn from history so that we don't make the same mistakes again, and that this wasn't just a failure of science, it was a failure of responsibility.
Assumptions kills, man. They didn't do all they research on the medicine. Look what happened, bro. You always got to find the details, man. It goes down to the details. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker, seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you guys comment down below. Hit that thumbs up button on this video. Also hit that post notification bell. You guys are going to catch you in the next videos. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.